Hi, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me as we go over some simple tricks and tips to making a nice Cha Cha necklace. If you want to make some jewelry that has a little bit of dangles on it, go ahead and watch this video to get some great ideas. Remember, if you do need any supplies, like the fun mermaid glass that I am wearing, go ahead and look below the video in the description to shop with us online. Gather up your materials and a couple pliers and we'll get ready to get started. So you may be familiar with this cha-cha design, adding in head pins along with either some stretchy string, or we're going to be working with some Potomac's wire and the stainless steel beading cable. I'm going to show you the quickest way and the most efficient way to do your eye pins and to cut the beads appropriate to size. You will want for this 3 tools. You will want a wire cutter, a nice flush cutter, a round nose plier, and a chain nose plier. You'll want to make sure also that you have a marker handy and a piece of paper. We're going to use that to help measure and make sure that our loops are consistent in size. So to begin, I have a bunch of head pins here, and these are 1-inch head pins because I'm not going to be doing coiling. I'm going to be doing a just overturned eye pin. Now the eye pin, when we make them, we are going to be cutting off extra wire and making sure that it does not overlap itself when making this eye pin. The goal of the eye pin, which will come off of a head pin, so the head pin just has a little stop at the bottom, and when you put your beads on, we're going to do that turned over loop to hang that down. Same for earrings, same for charms, pendant, anything that you want to hang down from a head pin. For this, to get an accurate measurement of how much wire you need to cut off your head pin, we're going to start with our first one here. And this is 6mm mermaid glass, and we're going to use some 8s as spacers. I'm going to grab my needle nose pliers, leave myself just a tiny bit of space above my bead, hold my bead, and turn my pliers away from me 90 degrees. That's going to create a 90-degree bend right after the bead for the wire to sit in. From here, go ahead and grab your round nose pliers, and you are going to make a loop going over the top of the round nose. So you'll see both jaws, one on top of the other. You're going to take your wire over the top of the round nose pliers. When it hits the bead on the other side, switch from the top jaw to the bottom jaw. Notice how I just turned my hand a little bit to do so. And then take that wire end and go back to 90 degrees. So it starts with 90 degrees and it ends with 90 degrees. Where we are going to cut off the extra wire, here's where that picture is helpful. We are going to cut off right there before the wire touches itself. So you're going to go in and save this little scrap with your pliers, and you're going to get as close in there as possible without the wire crossing over that pin portion of the eye pin. You're going to cut off the extra wire here, and then we're going to save this little piece of wire. This little piece of wire is going to help to determine how much we can cut off from each head pin. So I've already drawn it, but you can go ahead and make a little marking, lining them up on a piece of paper. And now what I can do is each individual head pin, I can go in, line it up on the paper, put it exactly where I need it to be, and then I can cut off the extra wire, which is going to be consistent because I'm using a consistent bead. If I have a smaller bead, say I'm doing my 1.5 by 2mm rondelles, my loop and my size is going to be a little bit different because the bead isn't quite as high. It's 4mm instead of 6. So I can go through now and save some time and cut all of my head pins down. So when I go in with my pliers, I can do a consistent turn, grab with my round nose pliers, this time at the end of the round nose pliers, and turn in. So what are the little marks on my round nose pliers? When I did this first example piece, what you're going to do is make sure that that's nice and closed, that the wire's touching each other, and put it into the round nose pliers till the loop stops. You'll notice I made a mark right there where the loop stops on my pliers. This can easily come off with rubbing alcohol and honestly will chip off as you're working with it, just rubbing off that permanent marker. But now you have an indication where to hold to make your loop. So this next one that I cut ahead of time, I'm going to go in with my round nose pliers, hold it at that section where I have that marker, hold it so that I can feel it, or I can see it, but I can't feel it rubbing against the top of my finger there. And you're simply going to roll over the rest of the eye pin and look to see that that matches up. That's a lot easier than going over the top of the pliers, switching from the top jaw to the bottom jaw. And I suggest doing all of the steps at once. So once you do your one sample piece and you have your drawing of how much to cut off, go ahead then and do your marking on your plier. Put down your round nose plier, grab your wire cutter, and go ahead and cut all of them to that same length so that you make sure that you have just the amount that you need left remaining. Always cover your hand. I keep taking it off screen, but cover your hand so that way the extra portion of the pin doesn't fly away. Go ahead and cut all of your head pins that you're using that have that same size bead to match. After you're done that, go ahead and turn them all to that 90-degree with your chain nose pliers. Next, go in with your round nose pliers and round it out, holding on that red line to make sure that your loops are all consistent in size. Once you have all of your little dangles or your little charms, you'll notice I did the exact same thing with some 1.5 by 2 millimeter rondelles in the rose color. Here on my sample piece, I have 4 millimeter bicones that are floating around. I'm going to keep this very consistent. Now, in this piece that we did on a Facebook Live, I have stretchy string here. Because I'm going to be making a necklace with that same idea, I'm going to be using that beading wire. And I've started out my pattern that I want to do with some of these longer tubes as well. And I have between the tubes a rondelle, round rondelle. And I've had 3 tubes there at the end. In the middle, I'm lining up consistent with my sample piece, a 6 millimeter bead, then an 8 millimeter bead. For the mermaid glass, I'm capping it off with some bead caps, and these are 5 millimeter caps. I like to do this because it gives a nice flatter surface for your head pins to go next to. I have a 6 millimeter, and so we have the rondelle, 6 millimeter, bead caps facing in, and a little bit with those. I love these. They're inexpensive filigree caps, and they do a ton. I'm going to consistently do the same pattern, making sure that as you do so, just give a little check, making sure that those eye pins are really, really closed. I'm just putting on 1, 2, 1, 2 for the green, pink, green. I'm going to let those fall down next to my last 8 millimeter glass, and then I'm going to continue on with my pattern. My pattern is going to remain the same, bringing a lot of focus to those charms and not overwhelming that 8 millimeter bead. So the 8 millimeter bead, which is really cool, it's a vitriol color, so it has that rainbow interior, super cool. I'm putting my bead caps on, then once again, because I have everything ready, 1, 2, 1, and 2. Now I'm only going to be keeping this toward the front of the design where the necklace is because I don't want to grab a lot on my hair of any of these little charms going in between. We've all had that issue with some watches where it grabs and ooh, does that hurt? So I'm going to keep all of my focus to the front. So yes, I will need additional beads to go up the back, but right now I'm going to go in, put in 10 of my 8 millimeter beads here and add all my charms into the interior. So once you have everything strung, you can go ahead and get ready to put on your clasp. I'm just doing a regular ball and hitch clasp, something super easy. Now the reason I used the tubes up the back was really to draw attention towards the front of the necklace. So just after your last set of beads here, you're just going to grab your crimp tube or your crimp bead, go through your clasp, and then take the wire back through the crimp tube. Pull that nice and tight, getting rid of a lot of extra wire, making sure that you don't have any extra wire kind of appearing here in the middle. And then I'm just going to simply, with my chain nose pliers, do a nice flat crimp. If you want to, you can do crimp covers on there. You can do crimping pliers. I think a flat crimp works just fine. Cut off that extra wire, and then your Cha Cha necklace is all finished. It's fun to look at these designs and see what beads you have on hand that you could use to make these fun necklaces, bracelet, even go ahead and grab some of the head pins to make a pair of earrings. Again, it is really nice if you're doing a center piece like this to keep it light and airy in the back. If you don't have the tubes, maybe just some seed beads back there or some smaller beads as well. The reason I do the tube on the bracelet is because when I go in and I put the bracelet on, when I am typing or doing anything like that, it's nice to have the bar at the back that cha-cha and those movements do not rub against the surface when I'm working on it. Thanks so much for joining me in this fun Cha Cha necklace and bracelet design. Remember, you can even take these skills and make a pair of earrings. I can't wait to see everybody's versions of this in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Also, if you have any feedback for the video, go ahead and give a little comment below. If you need any supplies like the mermaid glass, go ahead and look in the description, that little down caret on the right-hand side, and you can get links to all of the materials listed on our site. As always, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next inspirational video.